Hello, my name is Maria Borgoff, and I'm the director of Groove Forward. And I'm here today to talk to you about Ayurveda and human health and the 6 types of taste. So, before we jump in, the biggest question: how do we achieve health? There are so many approaches out there, so many different nutritional theories and philosophies and scientific evidence. I mean, it's overwhelming, all of the information that's out there. And so the question is, what's the right approach? What's going to work for me? And that's the most important thing. It doesn't really matter all the information that we read. What really matters is if I try it, if I do it, will it work? Will it achieve the state of health that I am looking for? So Ayurveda is defined as the science of life, and it is thousands of years old, originating in India. It's a sister science to yoga, and what it is really is it's a worldview. And it's a way of making sense, of organizing systematically the universal principles. And this is primarily done through a qualitative lens compared to modern science, which is very quantitatively focused. So Ayurveda, what it does is it gives us this understanding of earth elements, of tastes, so that we can apply that understanding in order to achieve health, both physiologically, mentally, emotionally, behaviorally, spiritually. And I love this word in Sanskrit, svasta, and it is literally translated to mean the place of self, which also translates to mean health. And so what Ayurveda really teaches us, and this approach, this idea, is that the primary cause of disease is us forgetting our true nature, is us being disconnected from the place of self. Now, I'm not going to say that someone who is suffering from cancer or a severe illness, that, oh, if they could only connect with themselves, their problems would be solved, or that their problems have arisen because they're disconnected from self. That's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm teaching. I'm just going with the philosophy and the theory of Ayurveda. Ayurveda is very helpful for daily practice and maintenance of our health as we transition through different phases of our life, through seasons, and also even through times of day. So the first piece that I want to touch on are the doshas, which is, if you have any understanding of Ayurveda, you've probably heard of the doshas. And perhaps you might be wondering, what's my dosha? What should I eat? What should I not eat? Those types of things. So I'll get to that in just a moment. But the doshas came first from the 5 earth elements. So Ayurveda first looks at nature and establishes these principles of nature, these qualities or attributes to describe nature by looking at the earth elements. The first being earth, then water, fire, air, and ether. Now, each of these 5 earth elements, moving from the most dense to the most subtle, each of those 5 elements have very different qualities. Some of them are heavier and more material and gross and dense, right? And some of them are hotter or more flowing, perhaps more subtle, dull or sharp, smooth, rough. Like, those are a few of the descriptions and attributes that Ayurveda applies. But each of the 5 elements have very distinct qualities. And so what then Ayurveda does is looks at those earth elements and breaks them down combines them and breaks them down into the 3 doshas. Now, my favorite part about Ayurveda is that dosha literally means fault or imbalance. It means disease. And so what Ayurveda teaches us is that by the nature of being alive, we are out of balance. The goal is not to attain perfect balance. The goal is to understand our unique nature, our unique combination of earth elements, and to work with that, and to allow it to unfold into greater and greater health throughout our life. Okay, so these 5 elements, these 5 earth elements, combine and create the doshas. So earth and water combine to create the dosha of kapha. Kapha gives us form. So we all have earth and water. We all have a form. We all have kapha. Some of us have more than others. But earth and water come together to create kapha. And when kapha is in perfect equilibrium, when it is in its truest, purest nature, kapha exists, earth and water together exist as unconditional love and the personification of the divine feminine. When kapha is overactive, it looks like attachment, jealousy, very dependable and loyal, but a little too clingy. And when kapha is not active, when it's too stagnant, it looks depressive, manipulating, and selfish. Primarily, kaphic diseases exist in the lungs, where earth and water exist. And a spiritual practice for working with kapha imbalances is letting go or generosity. Okay, so the second dosha is the combination of water and fire, or primarily fire and water. And this dosha is pitta. We all have pitta because we all have fire and water. Some of us have more than others. Pitta gives us function. So we have a form and we have the ability to function in this form because of pitta. Now, when pitta is in perfect equilibrium, when it exists as its truest and purest nature, it exists as clarity and a mind that is unobscured, able to perceive truth. It also is courage and strength and selfless action. Now, when pitta becomes overactive, it looks a little ego-driven, slightly arrogant, perfectionist, also over-ambitious. And then when pitta is stagnant or gets stuck, it's not moving. When fire and water get stuck somewhere, it manifests as rage, anger, and deep emotion that is capable of self-destruction or other kinds of destruction. Pitta disease often manifests in the liver, and a spiritual practice for imbalances in the pitta dosha is forgiveness. Okay, and then the third dosha is vata. Vata is the combination of air and ether. So vata is movement. We all have the ability to move. We are all moving all the time, whether it's our minds or our body or our energy, our emotions. There's lots of movement happening in each of us. Some of us move more than others. So some of us have more vata than others. But we all have it. So vata, this combination of air and ether, very subtle nature. When it is in its purest state, it exists as inspiration, creativity, and boundless energy, primarily enthusiasm. When Vata is overactive, too much movement of this air and ether, it looks like a nervous, high energy, anxiety, perhaps aloofness. And then when it is stagnant, when air becomes stagnant, it feels like a locked up personality. It feels dark, dense, and obsessive. These diseases in Vata primarily happen in the heart, and a spiritual practice for Vata is faith. So as you can see, the doshas are very complex. They exist physically, emotionally, energetically, mentally, right? Spiritually, on all of these levels. And what people often do when starting to study Ayurveda is, again, they ask, well, what dosha am I? Now, we all have all 5 elements, all 3 doshas, but we do often have a balance of more of one of the doshas or more of 2 of the doshas. And what that is our prakruti. This is what we were born with. And then when there is an imbalance that's created or we are out of that state, perhaps we're exhibiting symptoms in our life that are unpleasant or unproductive or undesirable, right? We often call this vikruti. When they become more extreme, they are disease. And so what we really want to work with is being able to understand the doshas in their truest nature, and then being able to understand how they are existing within us. Because again, it changes over years, over phases of your life, throughout seasons, and then by the time of day, there's different fluctuations in which doshas or with which earth elements are more predominant. So the way that I like to work primarily with Ayurveda and with the doshas is through taste and the 6 types of taste. So Ayurveda outlines 6 types of tastes, and each of them have a very specific taste or quality, but they also all serve a specific function in the digestive process. They are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. Sweetness builds tissue, calms nerves, exists as fruit, grains, milk. Sour, it cleanses tissue, increases mineral absorption. This is in yogurt, sour fruit, fermented foods. Think lime juice. Salt, salty taste. It improves the taste of our food because it lubricates tissue and stimulates digestion. Salt. Bitter. Bitter foods detoxify and lighten our tissue. This exists in leafy greens. Pungent. This stimulates digestion and our metabolism. Foods like chili and garlic. And astringent, which absorbs water, tightens tissue, and dries fat. This is in legumes and in raw foods. So as you can see, each of the 6 tastes have a very specific function, not only on your palate, not only in your mouth and how it makes you feel or taste or smell or enjoy what you're eating. It has a very specific function on a cellular level. And so what happens is when we do not eat some of these foods, when we just avoid bitter, pungent, and astringent foods, for example, we are not doing any detoxification or lightening of our tissue, our metabolism isn't being stimulated, and we're not giving ourselves food that dries fat or absorbs water. And then we're only eating sweet, sour, and salty, which is going to build tissue, lubricate tissue, cleanses tissue, kind of, but it's lubricating, very building. So maybe we get a little fat. Maybe we have some mucus buildup. Maybe there's bloating. There's too much water that's too much water that is just sitting inside of us. So this is how we can kind of understand the purpose of the different tastes of our food. And if you are either very attracted to or very averted by a specific taste, that might be telling you something. Not necessarily, oh, that means I should eat it if I don't like it, or that means I shouldn't eat it if I really love it. Let's stop thinking so dualistically, but let's look at what our food tastes like, not just in our mouth, but noticing how our food moves all the way down and through our digestive system in order to make choices, food choices, that will serve us both in the short term and our long-term health. So that's where I like to start when exploring Ayurveda, is giving you a place to understand the function of your food. And hopefully it leads you to make more holistic food choices. And what I mean by that is you're eating real food, because you begin to taste with such awareness, such heightened awareness and personal understanding, that you only want to eat real food because it tastes better. And therefore it will enhance your health. Okay, that's all that I have for you. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. Again, my name is Maria, and this is what I do with people. I integrate the practice and study and philosophy of Ayurveda into everything I do, because again, it's the science of life. So it's not just about the food that we eat. It's about all of the lifestyle choices that we make. I could list them all, but I'm not going to. So if you have questions, please reach out, and thanks for listening.